Welcome in, everybody, to Fantasy Sports Today right here on SportsGrid. It's me, Joey P, Joe Pisapia, and we are getting closer and closer to the real start of Major League Baseball season. We had a tease. It was certainly eventful, that's for sure. 2 games in Korea, a lot to talk about. And to help me talk about those games and a whole lot more, because I know you got a lot of fantasy drafts still to wrap up today and in the next few days, George Kurtz, everybody, here on the program with me. Matt Stryker is off for the next 2 weeks. Lucky dog. Isn't he lucky? Hanging out there. I'm sure he's working on the egg hunt right now in his house, hiding eggs all over for his little children to find. But George Kurtz, I found you. You're my Easter egg, and I'm very happy that you're back here. You look good, my friend. You look ready to go. I know you're excited for the baseball season, despite the fact that Garrett Cole's elbow is possibly not as good as it could be. How do you feel as a Yankee fan going into 2024 with all of this cloud around Garrett Cole? That's the big question I have for George Kurtz to start the show today.
I'm usually a doom and gloom guy anyway about our show, about my teams, right? About the Yankees, Islanders, Cowboys. Now, I thought the Yankees' starting rotation was held together by duct tape and Elmer's glue with Garrett Cole. Without him, well, now the Elmer's glue is cracking. The duct tape has major tears in it, and it's all but over. All right, I don't see how they're going to survive this. When you don't even have a 5th starter right now, and you've 1 through 4 are Nestor Cortez, Marcus Stroman, Clark Schmidt, and somebody I'm forgetting. I'm not all that thrilled about it right now at all here. And they can't sign anybody. Blake Snell. Oh, why couldn't the Yankees couldn't afford $60 million? No, it would have cost the Yankees $126 million to sign Blake Snell, as everybody they signed from this point on is 110% of the luxury tax here. So, I'm a little doom and gloom about the Yankees. I think they still might make the playoffs, Joe, but that's about as far as they'll go.
What a great way to start the show. I love it. George Kurtz already in the dumps. It's only segment 1. You weren't encouraged by Carlos Rodon giving up 5 earned runs yesterday? I don't know why you would
Rodon, he's the one
excited
I forgot.
about that.
Come on.
I wonder if the one I forgot is still on the waiver wire. That's the one I'm always. Maybe you forgot him on purpose. Maybe I'm just saying, George. It's very possible. But we've got the headlines to get to, so let's get after it because, again, baseball is starting. We're going to be here next week. Also, don't forget, we're going to be doing our big betting preview here on the show as things are kicking off. But let's talk about the season beginning in Korea. A lot of fanfare, a lot of fun stuff. But I think the 2 big takeaways really are Yamamoto might not quite be as ready for the start of the season. Perhaps it was not the best debut for him. Now, obviously, travel has a lot to do with things. Maybe some nerves, some adrenaline, whatever you might call it. Also, Shohei Ohtani hitting baseballs, but hitting into some controversy as well. What's going on here with the interpreter? What's going on here? Who's placing bets? Who's wiring money? Before the show, I wired some money to George Kurtz's account to make sure that he showed up today this morning to help me out here for the next 2 hours. But no controversy around that. But certainly the Ohtani business. This is not the end of this story. It's certainly got some layers to it already. We're going to be breaking it down here on the network because no place is better and more equipped to break down a story like this than SportsGrid, obviously. We are the wagering home. So a lot to break down here. I don't know exactly what's going on. MLB doesn't know exactly what's going on. We're going to get the investigation. A lot of people think they know what's going on. But again, let the investigation play out, and then we'll have more information. But it would be disastrous for the Dodgers to have Ohtani missing any time due to any suspension, which I can't imagine any conclusions or anything happening during the season. So we're going to let this thing play out here. If you got Ohtani MVP shares, I think you're okay. Now, will it possibly hurt some of the votes he gets? Maybe, but we'll see. If he had 60 home runs, I think all that just kind of fades away, unfortunately. All right, other news, some signings. Blake Snell signs with the San Francisco Giants. A great move here for the Giants. George, I want to get your take on this because the Giants' rotation was a little thin after Logan Webb. Now you've got Webb, you've got Snell. You bump Kyle Harrison down to the 3rd spot, who is at a really good 2024 debut. All of a sudden, the Giants look like a team that can really compete here in what should be a very competitive Western division. You got the Dodgers, you got the Padres deep rotation, the Giants now deep in their rotation, and let's not forget the Diamondbacks did go to the World Series. So, George, what do you think about this move for Snell, and when do you expect to see him actually taking the mound for the San Francisco Giants in April?
Yeah, you're going there. I like it as well for the Giants. I do. I think this makes them a playoff team now. You get Webb and Snell at the top of the order. I like Harrison too. Bottom of the rotation, I worry about it. We're going to see what we're going to get here to Hicks, make him a starting pitcher. How many innings is he going to give you? All right, that sort of thing there. So we'll see, Rod. They reinforced the offense too. Jorge Soler and Matt Chapman, so they'll be a better team. Do I think they're going to challenge the Dodgers? No, I don't. But I think they'll be a playoff team. The National League overall is not the strongest league on the planet here. As far as Snell is concerned, I don't think he's all that, by the way. I don't. And the fact that he's been throwing to high schools or whatever he's been doing to work, it's not the same thing. So I think he's going to be behind. All right, I think he's a guy, I don't think he's going to start till, let's say, mid-April. And he's not a guy I'm going to automatically insert into my lineup. I want to see a start or two first, Joe, especially in head-to-head leagues. Okay. I don't want this guy blowing up. I'm going to lose a week because once again I start him, he got crushed his first game out there. I think it's going to take a little bit here. And let's also not forget, he's a 5-and-fly guy. All right, he doesn't give in to bats. He walks a lot of batters here because he won't give in sort of the outlighter theory about pitching there, which is fine, but he's 5-and-fly. He gets 6 innings, and I got 6 on a plate. It's fantastic. He kills your bullpen on a major league team. So I worry about that as well. Jason Stark of The Athletic wrote a column, it's going to be about a month ago, and they were going over the best and worst free agent signings, asking the GMs, anonymously, of course, but one GM I thought posted something very funny. It's before Snell signed, obviously, and he goes, they were asking who's the worst signing, and the GM said, whoever signs Blake Snell. And I kind of agree with that because I think he is a huge risk. He didn't sign, he didn't have spring training here. And I don't think he's all that great to begin with. And he's had a couple of magical years. But fantasy-wise, he's going to scare me, especially in the first month or two.
Well, look, I think a 2-year contract, I think that's exactly the kind of contract that's actually the best version. Oh, we're back here. Okay. So, I think the Blake Snell contract, actually, the 2 years, $60 million you're getting, it makes a lot of sense to me if you're the Giants. I do agree, you don't want to go too long with some of these guys, but these 7-year contracts that him and Jordan Montgomery were looking for seems a bit absurd to me. However, 2 years for Blake Snell, coming off a Cy Young, you're paying him a high annual value, but I think that's what teams should be doing, paying high annual values for pitchers instead of these long-term contracts that get you in a lot of problems. Just a huge issue with some of these deals that are 6-7 years for pitchers. Not the best. So I definitely get what you're saying. Jordan Montgomery still does not have a home, by the way, as we continue to talk about him and looking around. George, real quick, I want to get your take on this whole Ohtani stuff and Yamamoto. Are you concerned at all about Yamamoto? And what do you think about this cloud over Ohtani?
Was already concerned about Yamamoto. Once again, he didn't have a good spring either, by the way. The Japanese baseball, we sort of forget, is smaller than the American baseball, and there's also tackiness on the ball. We should have tackiness too, by the way. It's just idiotic, we don't. But whatever. So I think there is an adjustment period there. So yes, I was already worried. Ohtani, I mean, Joe, I would say between real leagues and mock drafts, I don't think I drafted him at all. So I just wasn't drafting at 2 or 3. I just had some worries anyway. But a friend of mine asked me, I guess you could think about this during the break here. I guess he did draft Ohtani, and someone would offer him, if someone offers you for Ohtani, Alonso or Lindor, a second-round pick, would you do it right now to feel safe?
Lindor, maybe, not Alonso. But when we come back, we're going to give you some names that are free in your draft that you should be picking up, possibly in your leagues as well. So when we come back, some deep sleepers on FSD.
Going through this bracket, and I kind of lined up where I was in the futures market. I said, I have one more bullet left. Where do I go? And I played Tennessee.
$10,000 worth of Oakland gear has been sold to people with Louisville area codes. Like, this is going to sting people who are Wildcat fans because their arch rival gets to walk around and say, you lost to who?
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Betting in-game, there's a big difference, right? Like the computer changes the number so often. Like, I tried to get this in right now, but in reality, as I saw plus 165 in the arena, they're hitting the shot. And I'm getting this like a couple of seconds late. And even the sports book, like, technology can only like travel so fast.
Sports Rage Late Night. only on SportsGrid.
They go into the Pac-12 tournament, they win it, then they go into the NCAAs, and they put up a bucket load of points. They have looked fantastic. That's not the team that I saw in the regular season.
All those people that had all that extra time because of those COVID seasons is going to be gone, and you're not going to really have the 23, 24, 25-year-old basketball players running around anymore. You're not going to have it.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid. SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca.
I would be willing to bet the under 2.5 goals.
Fantasy sports today.
Especially in head-to-head formats in fantasy, I think I'm going to go with Juan Soto.
Game time decisions.
People don't like it. I don't really care. I cannot believe anybody is betting the Clippers at this number.
Betting above the
All
rim.
I've heard you say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Nobody has been more profitable as a dog than Shaka Smart Team.
Winning back-to-back road games. I don't care if they're playing Topeka High. I wouldn't give them any chance whatsoever.
In-game live, prime time.
Back-to-back, just utterly stinker quarters.
In-game live, overtime.
Honestly, as you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Great.
Welcome back, everybody, to Fantasy Sports Today, right here on SportsGrid. Joe Pisapia taking you through today. And obviously, a lot of you still have your fantasy baseball drafts today or in the next few days. People should be drafting as late as they possibly can. Why? Because injuries in spring training always happen. That's right. But in case you haven't had your draft yet, or maybe you had your draft, these are some names that might be floating around waiver wires. We're going to talk about some deep sleepers. These are players that are really ones that you should be paying attention to late in drafts or in deeper leagues. Obviously, these are guys that you still want to target. And of course, there's an opportunity for you where you're looking at some of these players as well to be great values and great returns on investment. So we're going to do that today. We're going to start with Ceddanne Rafaela of the Boston Red Sox. Now, this is a player having a really good spring. You see the ADP at 335. Now, that is pretty far down the trough. He has moved up a little bit in ADP in more of those circles where you've got players that fantasy players that are, more in the NFBC world and places like that. You're going to see a guy like Rafaela get drafted probably a little bit more aggressively. But if you're in a casual league here, this is a player that can have a big impact. Right now, he's slated to hit 6th in that lineup for the Boston Red Sox. If you look at what he did last year, he made the jump from AA to AAA. In AA, he was good, but in AAA, he was even better last year, which is not always the case. Usually when guys move up, George, they tend to struggle a little bit when they move up to that next level. Rafaela did not. 294 batting average, 773 OPS in AA. He moved up to AAA, and things really got hot there for him over 48 games. A 312 batting average with a 988 OPS. This guy has power. He's got some speed. He's got great opposite field contact skills, drives the ball well to the opposite side of the field. Now, I don't know how much you've seen of Rafaela yet this spring, George, but this is a player that I'm in on. Is this a guy that you have seen it all play in this spring? And is this a player that you've been targeting late in drafts or to pick up in drafts that have already happened?
Yeah, I think it's this guy, you go on the fantasy sites, he's on the scout team, right? Because he is available in probably a majority of leagues, especially any 10-team leagues you play in. I think, once again, I do play in some deeper leagues. Sure, he's been grabbed. He's always grabbed very late here, but I think he is a player to watch. We like hitting in Fenway as well. The Red Sox are going to hit. They can't pitch to save their lives, but they're going to hit. So there's going to be a lot of high-scoring games there for the Sox this year. I'm interested. I like his position flexibility as well. Depending upon your league, he could have shortstop, second base eligibility along with the outfield here. So he's a nice, useful player. He's a baseball player. As you said, I don't think he does one thing great, But he's a baseball player. Hit the ball the other way, give you a little bit of power, a little bit of speed, a little bit of everything for you. We got to start 5 outfielders, right? And not to mention outfielders we're going to have in our DH spot. Not to mention guys we're going to have in our reserve spot. Why not take someone like this other than a blog guy that you see him, what he does year after year after year? It's nothing special here, just a roster filler here. Why not take a guy with upside? That's what Rafaela is. He has, I'm not going to say major upside, but good upside.
He does. He's a smaller player, but very strong for a smaller player. Again, right-handed stick, but goes the other way very well from all the footage I've watched of him, watching the highlights of him, really trying to dig into the swing. He also qualifies at shortstop, which is really helpful. So you get a little position flexibility there. So if you're looking for a deeper bench guy, Ceddanne Rafaela is a player you really need to pay attention to. And look, if he plays the entire season, he is breaking camp with the Red Sox. You look at the projections, 55 runs, 12 homers, 52 RBI, 17 steals, 258 batting average. He's going to smoke all these projections. I think these projections are more for 100-game season than it is for 150-game season for him. So I would pay very close attention to this guy. Another player, too, you should pay attention to is Louis Varland of the Minnesota Twins. Now, he qualifies at SP and RP, which is also important in those leagues where you have those mandatory RP slots. Because if you look at the back end of this rotation, I don't know about you, George, in Minnesota, I'm not buying Chris Paddock. I'm not buying him necessarily. Varland is a guy that is really intriguing. The projections on him in 2024, 8 wins, 128 Ks, a 4.19 ERA, and a 1.26 whip. Now, Louis Varland, again, you're not looking for him necessarily to be the guy out of the gate, but the Minnesota Twins are going to be a very good team this year. I just had Steve Gardner on my show this past week from USA Today, and we were talking about his hot takes of the season or bold predictions, and he was talking about Royce Lewis being in the MVP mix, and I don't think that's necessarily a crazy thing to think about. You look at this rotation, Lopez, Ryan, and Ober at the top. Then you got Chris Paddock. So, again, I don't buy into him, but Louis Varland in that 5th starter spot, I do. So, to me, this is a guy who's going to make a lot more starts than people realize. What's your take on Louis Varland, too? Do you think that he can take that minor league success, and is he ready to bring it to the major leagues?
I do. I am with you here. Yeah, I think he is ready to take that next step here. He's going to start in the rotation because DeSclafani is going to be on the IL. I'm curious what's going to happen when DeSclafani comes back. What moves are they going to make here when DeSclafani comes back mid-April? A couple of starts in. So I might worry, Joe, what happens if Varland struggles in his first start or two? Will they give him time here, or is he the guy who's going to pay the price? Maybe it's Paddock. We'll see what happens there as far as, I guess once again, we'll cross that bridge when it comes to it. But as I was complaining, bitching, moaning before the show, there's a lot of pitches going on IL, man. I mean, I think I've got 3 or 4 on my roster, on my main roster here that I'm like, okay, when can I go on IL? He's a pickup. If he's there, he's probably my number 1 pickup right now to grab in this league that I keep looking at, waiting, for Yuri Perez to go on IL. Waiting for Urquidy to go on IL so I can put him on and grab him. So we're waiting, but yes, he's an absolute pickup. I like him. I like the Twins as a whole. I think they are going to win that division. So I'm on Varland.
Minor leagues track record here for Louis Varland, 10.9 strikeout per 9. That's a dominant guy. The walk rate is just getting a little bit untenable, right at 3. I'd like it to be a little bit lower, and the 2s would be where you'd prefer it, but still, Louis Varland is just 26 years old this season, so I think a good spot here for him to really continue to push forward and develop now at the major league level, because there's really not too much left for him to prove at the minor league level. AA, he was dominant with a 3.34 ERA 2 years ago. Last year, again, struggled at times, but for the most part was pretty darn good there, 3.97 ERA for him in AAA last year. At the big league level, again, he did make 10 starts, 17 games there for the Twins, a 4.63 ERA. I'd like to see him trim that down a bit. Another guy, too, that's going late, Frankie Montas. Now, this guy's going at 331 overall, Louis Varland at 321. So as George said, if you're looking for pitching late, these are some names you need to be drafting, some names you need to be circling, dropping into your queue in your drafts this evening or this week, or searching the waiver wire for, because Frankie Montas also qualifies at RP and SP. Coming off a good start yesterday for the Cincinnati Reds, Montas does have a track record of being a good pitcher. This is not new. Goes to the Yankees. We knew he was hurt when he came over in that trade from the Oakland A's. We all said he was. We all said it was a bad idea at the time. Guess what? Spoiler, it was a bad idea. The projections for him, 8 wins, 134 strikeouts, a 4.44 ERA, and a 1.32 whip. Now, George, I know this is a loaded question for you because you have a checkered past here with Frankie Montas, but now that he's with the Cincinnati Reds and looks healthy this spring, are you ready to love again when it comes to Frankie Montas?
Listen, I'm not blaming Montas. I'm blaming Cashman. All right, Cashman was the one who made the idiotic deal there for the Yankees, right? Along with many other idiotic deals. He seems to be very good at it. What he does there. Now, my problem with Montas has nothing to do with the fact that he flamed out with the Yankees was a bust, but more the fact that you're pitching in a Great American Small Park there for a lot of your starts. All right, I don't know how well this is going to go. That being said, Montas, when healthy, is a good pitcher. I like the Cincinnati Reds this year. All right, I'm on the Reds to win that division, so I think they're going to be a decent team. And Montas is a major part of that. They need him to be that good. Not, listen, he's not Garrett Cole when healthy, a top ace, Spencer Strider. But if he can just be a stabilizing force in that rotation, I will like Montas a bunch. Listen, I already mentioned everybody and their mother's going on the injured list, so he's a pickup. Do I love it? No. Would I rather have Louis Varland, the guy we already talked about? Yes.
Yeah, well, luckily there's some pitchers here. Again, as we continue on this list of deep sleepers, Rafaela really is the best hitter of this bunch, but there are some pitchers out there with jobs. Louis Varland, the fifth starter, but Gavin Stone for the Los Angeles Dodgers, also a fifth starter for arguably the most public team in baseball that people think is going to win 100 games, despite the fact they didn't look all that great necessarily in Korea the last couple days. But Gavin Stone, the projections on him, again, very low, but that's because Gavin Stone is a guy that people didn't know going into projection season what he was going to be. Emmett Sheehan goes on the IL. Gavin Stone goes into that fifth spot. James Paxton is not going to stay healthy, folks. Gavin Stone's going to make a lot more starts than you realize. He is not my favorite prospect of the Dodgers. I prefer Sheehan long-term, but short-term, Gavin Stone, another name you need to add. When we come back, to draft or not to draft, that is the question. We'll answer it when we come back.
Going through this bracket, and I kind of lined up where I was in the futures market. I said, I have one more bullet left. Where do I go? And I played Tennessee.
$10,000 worth of Oakland gear has been sold to people with Louisville area codes. Like, this is going to sting people who are Wildcat fans because their arch rival gets to walk around and say, you lost to who?
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Betting in game, there's a big difference, right? Like the computer changes the number so often. Like, I tried to get this in right now, but in reality, as I saw plus 165 in the arena, they're hitting the shot, and I'm getting this like a couple of seconds late. And even the sports book, like, technology can only travel so fast.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Tournament, they win it, then they go into the NCAAs and they put up a bucket load of points. They have looked fantastic. That's not the team that I saw in the regular season.
All those people that had all that extra time because of those COVID seasons is going to be gone, and you're not going to really have the 23, 24, 25-year-old basketball players running around anymore. You're not going to have it.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid. SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca.
I would be willing to bet the under 2.5 goals.
Fantasy sports today.
Especially in head-to-head formats in fantasy, I think I'm going to go with Juan Soto.
Game time decisions.
People don't like it. I don't really care. I cannot believe anybody is betting the Clippers at this number.
Betting above the rim.
All I've heard you say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live, all access.
Nobody has been more profitable as a dog than Shaka Smart Team.
Winning back-to-back road games. I don't care if they're playing Topeka High. I wouldn't give them any chance whatsoever.
In-game live, prime time.
Back-to-back, just utterly stinker quarters.
In-game live, overtime.
Honestly, as you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Great.
I wouldn't believe them. No one would believe anything. Welcome back in, everybody. Of course, we are here on SportsGrid TV, and don't forget, if you need to stay on top of all of your drafts, all of your March Madness, all of your investments, download the SportsGrid app right now. What are you waiting for? Stay on top of everything. There it is right there for you. Bang! Of course, March Madness is going strong. I don't know how George's bracket is. I don't do a bracket because I don't care. That makes me unpopular with the kids. It doesn't matter to me. I'm about baseball, I'm about football. The college basketball just doesn't move the needle for me, but I know it's madness for everybody else right now. And I know a lot of people are looking to, kind of recoup some investments. So SportsGrid is going to help you do that. We have the best coverage of the NCAA tournament. So make sure you stay on the grid for all of that and follow us on social media as well over at SportsGrid TV on X and, of course, all of our other social media platforms. George, we've been following the saga of Jordan Montgomery, which seems like, I don't know, 4 months now of where he was going to sign. We finally got Blake Snell last week. We could all rejoice. Jordan Montgomery, still out there, George, still floating around. He's at an ADP of 159. And at this point, you got to wonder, is that a good investment? You're looking around in that same ADP. These are some of the names that are in that same range. Christian Javier, young live arm, right? Carlos Rodon, I know not your favorite guy. Hunter Brown, a pitcher that I talked about last week, is a guy that I think has a good chance to possibly break out in 2024. Nady Eovaldi, great moments last year. A few other pitchers we're going to talk about on this list, but still at 159, the 45th pitcher off the board, Jordan Montgomery. Now, Jordan Montgomery, you look back at the last couple years, 3-1 strikeout to walk rate. That's good. ERA 3.8 or better in last of the 3 seasons as well. Had gotten moved around a little bit the last couple years, but wherever he ended up, Jordan Montgomery was a solid piece of a rotation. I know he was asking for too much money in too many years, but Jordan Montgomery hasn't signed yet. So we have to ask ourselves this question. Is this current ADP still tenable? Is it something that we can continue to invest in when it comes to Jordan Montgomery? So, George, I pose the questions to you. The projections here, 10 wins, 153 Ks, 3.89 ERA, 1.25 whip. We all know, George, that sometimes when these guys don't have their normal routine, things don't go well. Sometimes injuries happen. I don't want to be doom and gloom here. That's your job on the show. But Jordan Montgomery, a pitcher that I think could help a lot of rotations right now, still doesn't have a spot. Is 159 overall a big enough discount for you to get involved in Jordan Montgomery, or are you passing for some of those young Astros pitchers, for instance?
I think I would take all the Astros pitchers you mentioned over Montgomery for the reasons you mentioned also, by the way. All right, we're talking 159 is the top of round 14 in a 12-team league. There's value there, obviously. But even if he signs during this show, all right, he's not pitching until mid-April, minimum. We don't know what kind of ramp-up he's had, right? I mean, maybe he's done very little. We don't know that. Is he a creature of habit? Where, oh, my God, he's going to Toronto. He's going to be different country. I got to find out where to eat. What do I do? My laundry, that sort of thing. These players are human beings. They just don't go there and play. All right, so this is why I always have problems, Joe, in any league, by the way. Whether it's baseball, football, hockey, whatever fantasy draft I'm having, of drafting players that go to new teams. Shohei Ohtani's different because he went from the Angels to the Dodgers. He didn't go anywhere. All right, he can eat at the same pizza restaurant he likes. I guess he's doing more Japanese, but whatever. So you get my point.
That's not necessarily true. I mean, look, I'm Italian. I like Japanese food. You can cross the streams when it comes to
hibachi, man.
I bet Shohei Ohtani loves a good deep dish. I'll bet on it, and maybe he would too. I don't know. We have to wait and see about that. But anyway, back to Jordan Montgomery. Again, where does he have to fall for you when it comes to Jordan Montgomery? How much further down the trough? Like, do we have to get into the 200s for you to invest in him?
It's not so much the numbers, it's who's available. The players you name, Javier, Brown, I'm taking those guys. They're playing. They're pitching this weekend. All right? I know I can trust them. I don't know what I can do with Montgomery, but there's also this. I think this is what hurts him as far as signing as well. Yeah, he's 9 feet tall, but he doesn't throw hard, right? So he's not that sexy guy. He doesn't throw the ball 98 miles an hour. He doesn't. He's a pitcher. That's great for baseball. It's great for him, but it's one of the reasons why he's not signing it, because he's not going to strike out 10.9 for 9 innings like, I forget who we talked about earlier, Varland. He's not that guy. Mm-hmm. So he's going to put the ball in play. He's got to hit his spots. It's why that Brian Cashman thought when he traded Montgomery, he said, I just don't see him being a playoff starter for us because he can't strike guys out. And this day and age, that's all they want. They want guys who can strike batters out because they don't want the ball in play. They don't want to rely on the fielders catching the ball or the ball going out of the ballpark because the launch angle and everybody's trying to hit the ball 9 miles. Different game today, but it's hurt Montgomery. So I think he can help a rotation in Major League Baseball. I think he'd help about every rotation in Major League Baseball. But the problem is, it's going to take a certain team. Plus, what he has probably picks attached to him too that you're going to lose if you sign him in international draft money. The other idiotic things that come along with signing someone who I think was he was offered the QO, right? I think he was offered a qualifying offer. I'm not positive about that.
I believe he was, if memory serves. It seems so long ago, George. It also seems long ago that we were having a conversation about James Outman of the Dodgers, a hitter last year that really came on strong at the beginning of the year. You look at the April numbers, 292, had 7 homers in the month of April and 991 OPS. Then a .165 batting average in May, 224 in June. In July, another renaissance, a 904 OPS and a 309 batting average. So the question is, who is James Outman? And is he a player 168 overall you're willing to draft? I say this, George. I'm willing to draft him if Duran's off the board, if Yoshida's off the board, if Jimenez is off the board. Certainly I would take Wyatt Langford, Ian Happ over him. But once those guys are gone and I'm looking at the Tommy Edmonds or the Kerry Carpenters, I think that's the spot where I think Outman in this lineup is intriguing. Your thoughts on those projections for him when you're looking at the numbers, again, somewhere around 20 homers, 70 runs, 70 RBI, somewhere in that range. But again, the batting average could kill you too. So which Outman do you believe in, if at all?
I think he's a solid ball player. And I don't like the average because, once again, you get too many of these guys, you get no chance in that category. And he is someone, let's face it, he's drifting out when you talk about round 17, round 18. So you may have certain categories you want to fill right at that point. It's generally how I go about it in a rotisserie league. I am that guy where everybody I draft, if I think he's going to have 28 home runs, well, I'm minusing that off how many home runs I need to win that category. You average that out by whatever league you were in, how many years, and what it takes to win that category. So if it takes 300 home runs, well, now I need 272 if you're going to pencil it out for 28. Just throwing out a number out there. So by that point, I'm drafting Outman, especially if he's in my starting lineup. Well, I might not need home runs. I might need average. Well, then guess what? I'm not drafting Outman. He's not going to help me in average. All right, he's going to hurt me in average, and I have to realize that. And generally, for me personally, I usually need more speed than anything else. So that's might be the category I'm looking at here. I usually can survive average. I don't need power at that point, but I need speed. So that's how I'll approach it as the draft goes deep here. Bottom line is this: I like Outman. Do I think he's a perfect player? No. He's going to hit the bottom of the order in a stacked LA Dodgers lineup. I still think there'll be people on base all day for him. We saw, once again, 5 outfielders, 12-team league. That's 60 outfielders you're starting. I don't think there's 60 better in baseball. I don't. So, yes, he's a pick for me. I do like him. And he's a young player. So what you talk about last year, I think makes sense. Up, down, adjustments. Baseball's a game of adjustments. He makes them, then the league adjusts to him. They have to make him again. I think he'll be more consistent this year.
Jackson Holliday was terrific this spring, but it wasn't good enough for the Orioles, apparently. This really upset a lot of people over this past week. He hit .311 this spring with a .954 OPS. 2 homers. Now, he did strike out a little bit, 15 Ks in the 15 games that he appeared in, but still, Jackson Holliday is part of this giant future for the Baltimore Orioles. You see the projections here. Again, 57 runs, 8 homers, 46 RBI, 9 steals. This is, again, more of a half-season projection for a guy like Jackson Holliday. Now that he got sent down, I think this 169 ADP is going to plummet. I don't think it should. I think you should still be drafting him because I think at the very least, somewhere around May, he is going to be back up. I don't understand this move. They caught a lot of slack for it. I don't think anybody understands why. This team has had great success with these rookies. So just because he got sent down does not change my opinion of Jackson Holliday. George, how about you? Are you shining away from him as the bloom off the rose with Jackson Holliday now that he's not going to start the league season with the big club?
Depends where he falls to. once again, he's going to be a star. We all know that, all right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just a matter of when. And what do you mean you don't know why he was sent down? We all know why he was sent down, all right? It's all BS. There's no way Roman Urias should be starting with Jackson Holiday. That's ridiculous, all right? But then again, Baltimore's so rich in prospects and talent, I guess they can afford to do it. But I know why. The question is, when does he get called up? Probably when the Super 2 passes. So it could be May, it could be mid-May, whenever it is. But he will get called back up here and play. My problem is going to be, rookie. Mike Trout struggled when he first came up, right? Got sent back down. So he may not hit the ground running up here. And in a redraft league, probably, depending on what the price is, before I go after him. Because maybe Baltimore's going to be, stubborn and not call him up for a while. Try to prove everybody wrong. No, it's not about Super 2. We think he needed more work. I'll keep down there until July. Whatever. We've seen teams do this before. Maybe it takes an injury. Do I think he's ready to play now? Sure. But Baltimore, throws a little curveball there. So it depends on where he ends up going. I do think you're right. I think his ADP will drop now because he's not starting with the team. So automatically people won't take him there. So he's 169 now. I would say he's going to average 180, 190. And it wouldn't surprise me to get into the 200s here. Yeah, but that being said, my thing is also this, Joe. If I draft Jackson Holiday, well, then I probably can't take Jackson Chourio. Or I can't take Holiday, Chourio, and somebody else. It's too many rookies. It's hard to win that way. It's hard for me to win that way. I am risk-averse, Joe. Risk-averse.
I know you are, but I think with Holiday, you got to think it's a 6-month season here. And even if you get 5 months out of him or even 4 and change, it's going to be a lot better than what you're going to get out of middle infield. He qualifies at second, qualifies at short. He should be the starting second baseman for the Orioles, and I think he will be sooner than later. Now, he's not going to hit 25 homers. He's probably going to hit more like 15, maybe 20 if things go right. He's more of a gap hitter right now, but he'll grow into that power over time. Another guy, too, that I want to put out there for people, to draft or not to draft, Yu Darvish. Disappointing season last year. We all know that. 37 years old, but for me, Yu Darvish, another player that I am drafting aggressively. Why? The elbow is all cleaned up. He looks good this spring, and he could be a great fantasy ace for you, and look how late you're getting him in ADP. When we return, we're going to preview the AL West right here on FSP.
Going through this bracket, and I kind of lined up where I was in the futures market. I said, I have one more bullet left. Where do I go? And I played Tennessee.
$10,000 worth of Oakland gear has been sold to people with Louisville area codes. Like, this is going to sting people who are Wildcat fans because their arch rival gets to walk around and say, you lost to who?
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
Betting in-game, there's a big difference, right? Like the computer changes the number so often. Like, I tried to get this in right now, but in reality, as I saw plus 165 in the arena, they're hitting the shot. And I'm getting this like a couple of seconds late. And even the sports book, like, technology can only travel so fast.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Tournament, they win it, then they go into the NCAAs and they put up a bucket load of points. They have looked fantastic. That's not the team that I saw in the regular season.
All those people that had all that extra time because of those COVID seasons is going to be gone, and you're not going to really have the 23, 24, 25-year-old basketball players running around anymore. You're not going to have it.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid. SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca.
I would be willing to bet the under 2.5 goals.
Fantasy sports today.
Especially in head-to-head formats in fantasy, I think I'm going to go with Juan Soto.
Game time decisions.
People don't like it. I don't really care. I cannot believe anybody is betting the Clippers at this number.
Betting above the rim.
Always heard you say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live, all access.
Nobody has been more profitable as a dog than Shaka Smart team.
Winning back-to-back road games. I don't care if they're playing Topeka High. I wouldn't give them any chance whatsoever.
In-game live, prime time.
Back-to-back, just utterly stinker quarters.
In-game live, overtime.
Honestly, as you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
We've been doing our team previews the last few weeks, and now we find ourselves on the west side. The West Coast of the American League is where we're going to start today's previews. In hour two, we're going to get to the National League West, which is loaded. We talked about that with George coming out of the break before, which is, I think, the National League West is probably the best division in baseball. I don't think that's a hot take, folks. I look at that Padres rotation alone, and I'm saying maybe the Dodgers have more competition than we realize. But we're in the American League for now, but I want to start lower on the trough with the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Certainly a different look for them without Shohei Ohtani in this lineup as we look at what's going to happen here. Rengifo leading off. Noah Chanel, an interesting late round pick. Again, some questions about the power, but he's starting to put that together a little bit. He's going to be their starting first baseman. Good spot in the order for him, hitting in the 2-hole. Then you have Mike Trout, who is a very divisive player at this point in his career. A great player when healthy. When healthy is the caveat that we live far too often with when it comes to Mike Trout. Anthony Rendon, speaking of healthy, how about never healthy? I know they're toying with the idea of hitting him other places in the order. I don't care where you hit him in the order. He's got to be in the lineup to actually hit in the order, which is something we haven't seen a lot of Anthony Rendon. And I know he gets a lot of grief for it. It's a very tough thing for any athlete or anybody not to be able to do the thing they love to do. But in terms of investment, it's something you just can't invest in. Anthony Rendon, is a player you just have to leave alone. Taylor Ward, however, and Brandon Drury, two interesting values, George, I think, when it comes to fantasy, especially Drury, who qualifies at second, depending on your league, maybe even first and third, potentially. There's some different qualifications there for him. He's an interesting late-round pick, 20-plus homers, 2 years in a row. Ward's a decent hitter. Logan O'Hoppe, a catcher with some power. He flashed it last year. Unfortunately, a season-ending injury or nearly ending injury really derailed him in 2023, but he did come back at the end of 24 and looked pretty much like the same guy, so very encouraging there. Mickey Moniak's a player I've never been on, and Zach Neto, a young player that does have some upside. So the Angels' batting order certainly looks like a spot here, George, where a lot of questions, a lot of health questions, lacking a lot of star power outside of Mike Trout. So I'm looking at Drury, I'm looking at Ward, I'm looking at O'Hoppe. Those are the players that I'm looking at. But when you look at Mike Trout, are you somebody that thinks, well, he's going in the 50 to 60 range overall, depending on the draft you're in? Is Trout a guy that you are trusting at this stage in his career in your fantasy investments?
Well, I can tell you one thing. The drafts I'm in, you're in, are different because he's not going 50 to 60. He's going around 30, 35. Every draft I've been in, that's where he's going. I'm not doing that. You just heard me joke last second, risk averse, and Trout would be anti-risk averse, right? He's going to get hurt. When it comes to injuries, Joe, there are guys that we know that get hurt that don't. The most important ability is availability. He ain't got it, all right? And that's my fault if I draft him because I know it. I know he's going to get hurt, and he's another guy where if I draft Trout, well, then I can't draft Eloy Jimenez. I can't draft other guys who always get hurt. Can't have too many of these guys on my team because once again, it's my fault. Aaron Judge might be in this category as well. So, no, he's going too early for me. If he's going 50 to 60, fifth round, 60, I would take him. I would not. That'd be fine. That the value's there. But if he's going round 3, I ain't doing it. Sorry, I can't pull that trigger here. This whole lineup is just. Why is anybody pitching to Trout? All right, no. The only person I'm really interested in there, by the way, is O'Hoppe because I ignore catcher. I don't care. Yes, they're all terrible. I ignore them. So I'll take him late without a problem.
I don't know if they're all terrible. Actually, I think this year, Hoppe, Mitch Garver, Francisco Alvarez, Gabriel Moreno. I feel like the back end of catcher, this is the best back end of catcher. If you're like me and George. Yes, but you know what, George? To that point, if you're guys like you and me who ignore catcher till the very end, especially in those single catcher leagues, a 12-team league you're in, maybe like you just wait. You're guaranteed one of those guys, especially a guy like Garver.
2 catcher leagues should be abolished, by the way. Abolished.
Thank you, George. See, this is why we're friends, George, after all these years. All these years together, 2 catcher leagues are dumb. It's like when people still play with kickers in fantasy football. Stop doing that. The rotation for the Angels, not great. Patrick Sandoval, Reed Detmers, Silseth. You've got Tyler Anderson and Griffin Canning. Reed Detmers, to me, has a little bit of redeeming quality. I think he's got some upside, some interesting streamer options, deeper leagues, AL-only leagues. Same thing with Griffin Canning, but to me, this rotation's a hard pass. Let's move on to the Astros. Obviously, a team that has expectations this year. Jose Altuve still at the top of this lineup, followed by Alvarez and Bregman. Bregman had a big day yesterday with a couple bombs. Kyle Tucker going in the first round, and then you've got Jose Abreu, who struggled mightily last year, and I think maybe a player in decline. We'll have to see maybe year 2 in Houston, some adjustment period behind him, perhaps a little renaissance for Jose Abreu, maybe, but I wouldn't count on it. Yainer Diaz had a great season, a breakout in 2023. The power was spectacular. Chas McCormick, as George mentioned earlier, when you're in those leagues that have 5 active outfielders, a guy like McCormick's got a little pop, a little speed, decent batting average. He's going to have everyday at-bats. Really came into his own. He was a player I did a lot of videos about last year, pick him up off the waiver wire kind of stuff. And McCormick did not disappoint. And then Jake Myers and Pena kind of taking up the rear of this lineup. So this lineup's loaded. This is a team that I think is ready to go back and compete. It's all about health here, the health of Altuve and Alvarez specifically being there for them, George, as that's been spotty in years past. So what do you think of this Astros lineup? What's intriguing to you here when you're looking in fantasy or even wagering investments?
Yeah, it's gonna rock, right? As far as wagering, I'm on Alvarez for his home run prop. Even though once again he's a guy gets banged up, right? Gets banged up. Can I get the 135 games out of you, Jordan? Make it 135, you're gonna hit 40 plus home runs pretty easily there. Altuve would be great. Yeah, I hate him. He's probably the player I hate most in baseball. Buzzer boy. All right, Bregman, solid. Tucker. I know people got Tucker at number 2 overall. I don't have him that high. I have more top 5, top 7 for me, but really good ball player. They're gonna rake. I kind of think Abreu could have a rebound year here. Maybe a corner infielder for you. I don't mind him as a CI. Don't want him as my starting first baseman, but a CI, I'll take that, or DH for that matter. And what you said about Chad McCormick, so true. And I know a lot of people, I know you and I hate catchers, but there's a lot of pub about Diaz. He's going to be, I don't want to say the next big thing, but it's going to outperform his ADP drastically.
Yeah, I would definitely agree on that. Now, the rotation also very intriguing. Framber Valdez, the lefty at the top of it, then Christian Javier, Hunter Brown. We talked about them earlier in the last segment. JP France, somebody that a lot of people are adding, I think more of a league average pitcher, but because he's on a good team, he is going to be somebody that people are going to pick up off the waiver wire, stream. And in those 2 start weeks, he might end up getting you some points, might end up getting you some productivity. Blanco is going to take the spot temporarily while Justin Verlander comes back. They're hoping to get him back in the next few weeks. I think that's a big question, too, when it comes to Justin Verlander. He is an older pitcher. He's in his 40s already. Justin Verlander, when he was on the mound last year, was good. Back home in Houston, away from the New York Mets again. Things went well for Justin Verlander. Unfortunately, again, the health is the big question. So I know you're risk averse. We've said that. But his ADP is pretty far down that trough. Are you somebody that's willing to take the chance? Because with Verlander, that's already a guy who's getting close to returning. And maybe having a 40-year-old maybe only make 25 starts is actually a better thing than if he was healthy in the beginning of the year. Getting him all the way maybe to your fantasy playoffs might have been a bigger ask.
I think you actually put it perfectly, by the way, because I'm going in my head. What's his over-under on starts? 24.5 is what I was coming up with. You said 25. So you're barely taking the over. And I think that's right, by the way. So as long as you're good with that, because I do think he's going to come back in mid-April. And I think he's going to be good. But I think somewhere in July, he's going on the IL again. Even it's just a made-up, they take a 3-week vacation here. We'll get you ready for the playoffs, that sort of thing. So you're going to lose him for that point as well here. I can tell you he's sliding in drafts, right? Though when I was doing these mock drafts earlier in February or January, he was going up there probably 5th, 6th round. Now he's falling down to the 8th, 9th round. He keeps falling because people are worried a little bit about him. So I think there is value there. My problem, once again, if I take Verlander, I can't take too many other guys like him. Because you can't have all guys who get hurt here. But I think Verlander, when he pitches, I think he will be just fine and of value to your team.
Yeah, I would agree. I think, when you're looking at Kershaw returning so late, Jeffrey Springs returning possibly even later, We have Scherzer working his way back, but not till June, we're hoping. We're going to get Verlander back quicker. If you're going to take a shot on a pitcher with these veteran guys, I think that might be the way to go with Verlander. Again, you're getting a discount, and the upside is what, George? He's the number 2 guy in your fantasy rotation, maybe even number 1, especially if you hit, hitting very early in your draft, and then maybe you don't get the pitchers you want. There's always that upside of Verlander, is up to Verlander standards, at least for 20 or 18 of those 25 starts. That's a good return. Oakland, not the best return. Esteury Ruiz at the top of this batting order. Now, if you need stolen bases, that's great, but for a guy to steal as many bases and score so few runs, I think that tells you exactly where the Oakland A's are at. We'll see how much longer they're in Oakland. Zach Geloff, however, that's the player for me that stands out in this lineup. The second baseman here, 14 homers, 14 steals last year in AAA, 14 homers, 14 steals in the major leagues last year. I mean, this is the guy right now that you're looking at and saying, okay, if you're looking for middle infield power speed combination, good spot in the batting order, if this kid played in Chicago or Boston or LA or New York, we'd be talking a lot more about Zach Geloff. Is he a perfect player? No, not necessarily, but I mean, you're talking about a potential 2020 guy, George, and Geloff is really suppressed in ADP. Ryan Noda at first, Brent Rooker in the outfield. Rooker had a nice power season. Miguel Andujar, unfortunately, now is going to start the year on the IL, but hopefully in a few weeks, maybe in mid-May, you get him back. J.D. Davis was released, so the A's picked him up. I thought a good move for them. Cost him very little. Made a lot of sense. Again, he's going to get every day at bats. So in deeper leagues, if you need a bat, Davis could be out there. Langoliers a catcher. J.J. Bleday, the once upon a time Marlins prospect. Again, decent contact guy, not a lot of power. And then Nick Allen at short. So for me, Zach Geloff is the target of mine in this lineup. George, when you're looking at this Oakland A's lineup, who do you think, if anyone, you are targeting to have in your drafts?
Even my dog thinks these are all underdogs here. So, listen, Ruiz, he can win you the stolen base category all by himself, but there is noise that he may not have that job long term here, right? Because he's not that's all he does is steal bases, right? There's not much else going on there. But once again, I am interested because I am that guy who doesn't get steals. I have problems with that category. And I know going in, I have problems with that category. So he's the guy I'm looking at. I love Geloff just like you. He's a little underrated here. Second base is not the strongest position, so someone you can get a little later. So, yes, I'm a big Geloff guy. Everybody else, no thanks. I'll pass. It's not like the Oakland Coliseum, which they are playing in now, is a great hitter's ballpark. It's not. Outside of Ruiz and Geloff, no thank you.
Yeah, and look, Blackburn may be the only guy in this rotation too. Stripling's in there, Sears, Alex Wood. I'm done with that. But Paul Blackburn's a guy, gives you some quality starts, getting a lot of strikeouts, but if Blackburn gets traded, that could be interesting too. Mason Miller's the guy to watch for in that grouping too, because he is, I think, going to be the closer of the team. Now, let's save the best for last here. You got the Mariners, Crawford, Julio Rodriguez, Polanco, Garver, Cale Raleigh, Ty France, and then you got some platoons going on with Mitch Haniger in the middle. Look, this is easy for me. They are one bat away. I say the big outfielder. I think Eloy Jimenez is going to be that guy. Eventually, they do make a trade for somebody of that ilk, maybe a JD Martinez. I don't know. Somebody's going to end up there to protect them. But I like the Polanco signing. Garver is really cheap there, a catcher. The rotation, George, of Castillo, Kirby, Gilbert, Miller, and Wu, arguably the deepest rotation in baseball. Would you agree?
Absolutely. On everything you said, man, one more bat, and this is a World Series team, a good bat. One more good bet. I would love this team, but this rotation is fantastic. I think they're definitely a playoff team. Good chance to win the division here. Give me them all. Any one of them. More than one. Love to have them here. The rotation. I love the Mariners. Just wish they wouldn't have been so cheap during the offseason. Just give me that one more bat, please.
And then the reigning defending champs, Simeon for the Rangers at the leadoff spot, Corey Seager, Evan Carter, Adolis Garcia, Josh Young, then Wyatt Langford, Heim, and the bottom of this order. Look, Wyatt Langford's going to be a star if Seager stays healthy all season, which is always a question. But look, this is still a really good lineup, especially if Langford's potential is realized. Not to mention Garcia and Simeon, very consistent. In the rotation, Needy Eovaldi, John Gray, Dunning, Bradford, and Heaney. We'll see when DeGrom and Scherzer come back. Scherzer before DeGrom, but still the pitching needs a little bit of help. So the Rangers are a team that needs those sticks to really perform. When we come back, stat of the day, FSC.
was going through this bracket, and I kind of lined up where I was in the futures market. I said, I have one more bullet left. Where do I go? And I played Tennessee.
$10,000 worth of Oakland gear has been sold to people with Louisville area codes. Like, this is going to sting people who are Wildcat fans because their arch rival gets to walk around and say, you lost to who?
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
Betting in game, there's a big difference, right? Like the computer changes the number so often. Like, I tried to get this in right now, but in reality, as I saw plus 165 in the arena, they're hitting the shot, and I'm getting this like a couple of seconds late. And even the sports book, like, technology can only like travel so fast.
Sports Rage Late Night only on SportsGrid.
They go into the Pac-12 tournament, they win it, then they go into the NCAAs, and they put up a bucket load of points. They have looked fantastic. That's not the team that I saw in the regular season.
All those people that had all that extra time because of those COVID seasons is going to be gone, and you're not going to really have the 23, 24, 25-year-old basketball players running around anymore. It's not going to happen.
Pharrell Coast to Coast only on SportsGrid. SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca.
I would be willing to bet the under 2.5 goals.
Fantasy sports today.
Especially in head-to-head formats in fantasy, I think I'm going to go with Juan Soto.
Game time decisions.
People don't like it. I don't really care. I cannot believe anybody is betting the Clippers at this number.
Betting above the
All
rim.
I've heard you say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Nobody has been more profitable as a dog than Shaka Smart team.
Winning back-to-back road games. I don't care if they're playing Topeka High. I wouldn't give them any chance whatsoever.
In-game live, prime time.
Back-to-back, just utterly stinker quarters.
In-game live, overtime.
Honestly, as you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Great.
All right, the numbers never lie, and maybe the second game of the Padres-Dodgers series in Korea could be an indicator of things to come. If it is, you might want to take some overs because there were a lot of runs scored in that second game. How many runs? 26 in game two. Yes, I know there's a lot of pitchers getting work in, and yes, I know it's basically a glorified spring training game, but still, 26, that's a lot. In fact, it's the most runs scored in any Padres-Dodger game in the history between these two teams. George, we talked about the Mariners rotation. We've talked about the Minnesota Twins rotation. Those are some of the better rotations in baseball. But you look at Oakland, you look at the Angels, you look around not just the American League, but the National League too. And outside of a few teams, pitching is very thin. Do you think we're looking at a lot of overs when it comes to 2024 MLB?
I expect there to be. We'll see what the adjustments are made here. All right, listen. In that game there, the 15-11, I'm still angry is that I thought it would be a higher scoring game. So I had 4 home run props, all the Dodgers, Betts, Muncy, Freeman, and Ohtani. And 26 runs, 11 by the Dodgers. You would think I hit it. I only need to hit 2 to win money out of this. Of course, I only hit 1. Only Betts hit the home run. No, I don't think there are any other home runs in the game other than Machado for San Diego. So I'm still a little frosty about this, Joe. Do I think it's a sign of things to come? Yeah. By the way, you haven't even thrown in all the injuries that are happening. All the guys going on IL, so all the we're not going to get top prospects for replacing these guys. We're going to get, junk starters for a lot of these teams here. So I think we are going to get a little high scoring. Maybe not in April. We know it's going to be cold here in the Northeast. Bull doesn't travel as well. But overall, I think we're going to see some runs this year.
And watch this, everybody. Hey, George, don't forget MLB wants to expand to 2 more teams. How's that going to work for pitching? All right, I don't even want to know. I'm going to fire up George at the break. When we come back for hour 2, we're going to look at the National League West, preview them. We're going to talk about the injuries, as George alluded to, a lot to talk about there on that front, unfortunately. But some good news, too, for some players working their way back. But also, the guys are going to win you leagues when we return in hour 2. So don't go anywhere. Hour 2 of FST is going to start right now around the corner. So dial in, get that other cup of coffee ready, because we're going to win you some fancy baseball when we return.